Hello, friends. This is Tomar Levine of Soul Guidance for Awakening. And this is the beginning of my third week of my experiment stepping into the unknown by doing a daily Monday through Friday live stream. And what I want to just talk about briefly today is something that's recently risen to the top of my mind, top of my awareness. It's something that I think about a lot, have thought about a lot for many years, and that is what, if anything, will it take for humanity to grow up? And what does that mean? And what is at stake? And what do we mean by growing up? What do we mean by psychological adulthood as opposed to chronological adulthood, or spiritual or soul adulthood? I took a class many years ago with Dwayne Elgin, who shared the experiment he had been doing for a long time, which was traveling around the world where he lectures, gives workshops, and asking all different populations, all different cultures, what level of development they thought humanity was in. Was it infancy, childhood, adolescence, young adulthood, mature adulthood, elderhood? And he said there was a unanimous consensus that people all felt humanity was in a very adolescent stage. It exhibited a lot of the traits of an individual in adolescence: the recklessness, the self inflation, the grandiosity, the thinking it's immortal, maybe the daring and some ingenuity and creativity and desire for experience, but on the whole, really not having a sense of the consequences of our actions, being thrill seeking, and not having any sense of being responsible for the continuity of life on this planet or for any kind of mature um, placement of oneself in relationship to the whole. In other words, it's all about me, me, me. And that is what adolescents are about for the most part. And we know now, science has told us that the adolescent brain is not fully matured. In fact, that's why adolescents cannot be tried for crimes the same way by the same standards as an adult, because their brain is not fully formed and they don't understand the consequences or the implications of their actions. They're very focused on just this moment, and they have very low impulse control, and they're looking for the satisfaction of their immediate impulse cravings or desires, and they want to have fun, and they're just not thinking about the future. So all of those criteria seem to match very closely with the way humanity as a species is living as a whole on the planet, is conducting business. I know that there are people um, who are alive who are in very different stages of development, of maturity. And there's a lot of different ways to describe those levels. So I'm currently actually studying two different books that address those levels of development. One is a book by my friend Hollywood called The Golden Thread, which was published not too long ago, where she describes stages of development of human consciousness and how purpose, our actual inherent purpose, runs like a thread throughout all the different stages, but manifests differently, shows up differently. that it may not be obvious to you, but there's a way, if you examine your experience going back to your earliest childhood, that you start to pick up the thread and see how it has run through your whole life. And it reveals many insights. In Holly's model of developmental stages, she also talks about adolescence and adulthood and uses different terminology, and that the majority of humans on the planet are in a child or adolescent level. And in fact, she talks about three large categories. And the first is where you're identified with the concrete world, the material world, with your physical experience. And there's a lot of other aspects to that. And only from there do you move into an appreciation of the more subtle internal experience of emotions and intuitions and thoughts and visions and inner experience, as opposed to just outer experience. If you just look at it that way, you could see how much of our culture is dominated by materialism and by the emphasis on possessions and the emphasis on physicality as a definition of who you are, as an evaluation of who you are. And then there is also the extension into the more inner, where the emotions dwell, where the inner worlds express themselves. But many people don't arrive at that stage till later in life. And beyond that, there are other aspects that are even much more rare on Earth in terms of people who are living in a more expanded, more transpersonal sense of identification. That would be one way of putting it. You know, the early stages of development, just true in childhood, it's all about me and then me and my family. And then we start to identify with larger and larger, more inclusive groups. Oh, it's not just me, it's my community. Maybe it's my whole country. Maybe it's all the people who believe as I do. But eventually, as you really mature, I believe, one sense of identity starts to be inclusive of all life on this planet, all life in the cosmos, all that exists. And it seems very odd to be somehow rooting for one team over another, like you're at a ball game, and for some reason you think your team is more worthy than another team. Well, that's how people are with, you know, different forms of identity that separate us from other people, you know. And there are these sort of myths that God is on our side. Well, why would God be on the side of one country but not another country? Aren't we all human? Aren't we all the progeny and the expression of the divine? Of course. So it's this very narcissistic, egocentric projection of meism onto a larger picture. So as you evolve and mature, you actually start to expand, and you can start to identify with much larger circles of what you include in your caring. And so that might just be a place to leave it for now, and I'll pick this up tomorrow. But I'll leave you with that question of, like, where does your sense of identity extend to? Who do you feel is the we when you say we or us, or I'm part of this community, this collective, this larger group? And obviously, we all have many identity definers. You could say I'm a mother, so I'm kin to all mothers. Or I'm a woman, so I'm akin to all women. Or I'm a professional in this field or that field, so I relate to that category. But it doesn't stop there. I'm a human being. I'm an incarnate life form on this planet. I'm a conscious, sentient being. I'm a consciousness. Where does your sense of identity extend to? I'm going to come back tomorrow with another chapter of this exploration. Many blessings and bye for now.